If you watched Google Marketing Live, then I'm sure you realized that Google is making it very clear where search is going. More AI, fewer hard and fast keywords, more conversational searches, and a lot more automation. And one of the biggest pieces of that shift that they did talk about a lot at the Marketing Live presentation was AI Max. But here's the problem. Just because Google wants you to use it does not mean that your business is necessarily ready for it yet. For the right account, AI Max can help you find searches that you never would have thought to bid on. But for the wrong account, it can quietly spend your budget on low quality leads, irrelevant searches, and people who were never truly going to become customers in the first place. So in this video, I want to break down what AI Max actually does, what changed after Google Marketing Live, and when I personally would use AI Max for lead gen business and how to use it. So let's start with what AI Max actually is. So AI Max is a setting in your search campaigns that you can toggle on and off. And once it's on, Google can go beyond the keywords that you have given it in the search campaign to find new potential conversions. So instead of only showing your ad when someone searches for one of your keywords or something related to your keyword, Google can use more contextual, more behavioral, and semantic signals of the searcher to decide whether your ad should show. So basically, Google is trying to understand what the person means, not just the exact words that they typed into a search bar. And that part makes sense because this is where search is heading. So if you listen to Google Marketing Live, the message was pretty clear. Google is more and more moving towards AI-driven search experiences, so longer conversational searches and people searching in ways that do not fit neatly into a traditional keyword list. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight. Chances are we may not even see this happen for lead gen businesses this year, but it is something that is coming in the future, and I do think that we are heading in a direction where keywords will continue to become less and less important over time. So if that's where we're headed, and Google really wants you to use AI Max to keep up, but then that brings up the important question, is it there yet for small businesses and for lead gen businesses? And my honest answer right now is maybe in some cases, but definitely not as a starting point. As of right now, in June 2026, I do not recommend most lead gen businesses starting their campaigns with AI Max turned on, especially if you're new to Google Ads or your account is new, or if you're still figuring out which keywords and which search terms and audiences actually bring in good leads for your business. Because AI Max is not just this simple little keyword expansion button, it does test a lot of different things all at once. A lot of people think of it as the keyword expansion, but AI Max can include search term matching, which is where Google matches you to searches beyond your current keyword list. But it can also include text customization, where Google may adjust parts of your ad messaging based on what the person searched. And it can also include URL expansions, where Google may send traffic to a different page on your website if it thinks that page is more relevant to what the person is searching. So when you do turn on AI Max, you are not necessarily testing one clean thing. You may be testing broader search matching, different ad messaging, and different landing pages all at the same time. And that's where AI Max can get a little bit messy. And I actually audited an account recently for a door installation company that had AI Max running. And a lot of the AI Max search terms were for competitors or window installation, which is a service that they don't offer. So on paper, Google might look at that and think, well, this is close enough, like doors, windows, home improvement, it's kind of related. But in real life, that's just wasted money because related is not the same as profitable. And I think that is the biggest thing to keep in mind with AI Max. Yes, it can help you find searches outside of your keyword list, but those searches still need to be the right searches. They still need to turn into actual qualified leads and paying customers. Otherwise, all you've done is give Google more room to spend your budget. Now, to be fair, there is a real upside here, and I don't want to just sound like AI Max is bad across the board because I genuinely don't think it is. The biggest pro is that AI Max can help you get in front of searches that you may have never thought to add in as keywords, or in searches that happen in AI mode that are more conversational that your keywords would have never been able to reach. And that can be really valuable because people do not always search in the way that we expect them to. So a business owner might build a campaign very tightly around obvious keywords like emergency plumber near me or roof repair Austin, but a real person might search in a much more specific, messy human way. And so they might type something like, why is water coming through my ceiling after a storm? Or who do I call when my water heater is leaking? Or best dentist for someone who hasn't gone in years. So those searches may not perfectly match the keyword list that you built, but they could still be very valuable. And so this is where AI Max can be quite helpful. So it can look beyond the exact keywords and try to understand the intent behind the search. So if your campaign is already working and you've already captured a lot of the obvious demand, AI Max can potentially help you find those extra pockets of demand that you've been missing. But the big thing is your campaign already needs to be working well, which is why I don't recommend it for newer advertisers. Now, that's the good side of it, but the con is basically the exact same thing because AI Max can go beyond your keyword list. It can also go beyond your keyword list in ways that are not helpful. So it can match you to searches that are too broad. It can match you to searches that are kind of related, but not actually useful. And in lead gen or small businesses, that can get expensive really quickly, especially if you're working with a smaller budget. And so that is why I'm careful with AI Max, not because I think automation is bad, not because I think keywords are going to matter forever in the same way that they used to, but because lead quality matters more than lead volume. And so if your account is not set up to teach Google what a good lead actually looks like, Google can very easily optimize towards the wrong thing. Now, one update that I do think is interesting that came out of Google Marketing Live is something called AI Brief. And from what Google announced, AI Brief should allow you to give AI Max more plain language direction about your business. So instead of Google only guessing from your website, your ads, your keywords, and your conversion data, you'll be able to explain your services, your brand messaging, your brand's tone in a more direct way. Kind of like how you would give Claude or ChatGPT a prompt. And I do think that this will help because one of the big problems with AI Max right now is that Google may understand the general category that you're in, but not the nuances of your actual business. So it might know that you're in home improvement, but not understand that you do doors and not windows. So that feature has been announced, but as of right now, it's still not something rolling out until the summer. So I would not build your entire lead gen strategy around the assumption that the AI Brief is going to magically fix everything. It will help, but you still need a strong foundation in place. Okay, so let's talk about who should not use AI Max. And I've said this a few times, but if you are launching a brand new Google Ads account, I would not start with AI Max turned on. If your conversion tracking is not reliable, I would also not turn on AI Max. If you do not know which leads are actually good leads, I would not turn on AI Max. If you are already getting a bunch of junk terms, junk leads, or tire kickers, turning on AI Max is not the solution to that. It is not a magic fix for a messy campaign. So if your campaign is already struggling, giving Google more freedom usually does not make it work better. So then when would I test it? So I would test AI Max when you already have a search campaign that is bringing in good leads consistently. You know the business is actually getting opportunities from the campaign, and now you want to scale and get more of those opportunities. Now, when you're scaling, the first move to look at is increasing your budget. So you're already getting good performance from this campaign. If you increase your budget, you're just going to get more of that good performance. But eventually, there will come a point, especially for local businesses and lead gen businesses, where increasing the budget does not really get you more good leads. And so then you've hit the point of diminishing returns. So then your cost per click just ends up going up and your cost per conversion ends up going up. And you're spending more, but you're not getting more leads. And that tends to happen because there is only so much demand for the keywords that you are targeting. So there are only so many people in your area searching for that exact service at that exact moment. So then if you want to keep growing, you have to widen what you're bidding on. And that could mean adding new keywords. It could mean adding in new services. It could mean testing broad match keywords, or it could mean testing out AI Max. But the keyword here is testing. So if I were going to test AI Max in a campaign, I would not just go into the campaign that is already working really, really well, flip the AI Max switch on and hope for the best. Because if that campaign is currently bringing in good leads, I don't want to mess with it. Do not fix something that's not broken. So the last thing you want to do is turn on AI Max, have the performance drop, your lead quality starts to get weird, and now you're trying to figure out how to get back to where you were before. So instead, what I would recommend doing is launching a separate campaign. So I would take the existing search campaign that is already working, duplicate it, and keep everything the same. Your same structure, your same ad groups, your same keywords, your same ad copy, same location targeting, same everything. And then in the duplicate campaign, I would turn on AI Max. That way you have your original campaign still running and you have your AI Max test campaign running separately. And it's not perfect because Google Ads tests are rarely perfect. So doing it this way gives you a much better comparison to your campaign that is already working very well for you, your duplicate campaign with the only changed variable being the AI Max. And so you can better compare apples to apples. And that way, if AI Max doesn't work for you, you can easily shut it off without affecting the main campaign that has been working so well for you. Then when you are testing the two, you need to watch the right things. So do not just look at conversions. You want to look at your search terms. You want to look at your cost per lead, look at your qualified lead rate from each of the campaigns. And if you can, look at booked jobs or your closed revenue from each campaign. Because if AI Max gets you 30% more leads, but half of them are junk, that may not be an improvement. But if AI Max gets you more leads at a similar cost and the quality is still strong, then that is a very different conversation. But before you even think about testing AI Max, the one absolute thing that you need set up in your account that is a non-negotiable is strong conversion tracking. And I know conversion tracking is not the most exciting topic, but with AI Max, it becomes one of the most important pieces because AI Max needs signals and Google needs to know what it should optimize for. And if all you are sending back is someone clicked on the submit button, that's not enough of a signal to truly optimize AI Max. So at a minimum, you want real conversion action set up for actual phone calls and actual form fills. But the better version is sending your qualified lead data back into Google. So if your CRM connects with Google, you want to report back which leads were qualified, which leads booked, which leads became customers, and ideally how much they spent. Because then Google can start learning the difference between a cheap lead and a valuable lead. So if your CRM doesn't connect with Google, then you want to use forms or call tracking software that captures the Google Click ID or the Gclids so that you can manually upload offline conversions later. And so this is becoming more and more important as Google moves deeper into AI, because the more control we give Google, the more important it becomes that we feed Google the right data. So if you feed it messy data, it is going to make messy decisions. If you feed it clean data, qualified data, and your revenue data, then the AI has a much better chance of moving in the right direction and matching you up with other people who are similar to your current customer list. And this is really the big takeaway with AI Max. I don't think it is something to be afraid of, but I also don't think it's something that most lead gen businesses should rush into. Google is clearly moving towards AI-driven search. That part is not really up for debate. Search is becoming more conversational. People are searching in more complex ways, and Google is using more AI to understand the intent of the search, not just the words themselves. And over time, I do think these tools are going to become more normal, more useful, and probably a lot more necessary. But right now, for lead gen, you still need to be strategic. So I would not use AI Max to fix a bad campaign. I would not use it before tracking is properly set up, and I would not use it before you understand your search terms. And I would not use it in an account where you cannot tell the difference between a lead and a qualified lead. But if your campaign is already working, your lead quality is strong, your tracking is clean, and you are starting to hit a ceiling with your current keywords, then AI Max may be worth testing. Just test it carefully. Protect your campaign that is already working, duplicate it, turn on AI Max in the new test campaign, and then watch the data as it comes in. Because the goal is not just to get more conversions inside of Google Ads, the goal is to get more customers for the business. And AI Max is really just one way to help scale a Google Ads campaign. But before you widen your targeting or give Google more control, you need to know whether your campaign is actually ready to scale in the first place. So if that sounds like the spot that you're at right now, click right here and I'll show you how to scale your Google Ads campaign without sending your cost per lead through the roof or bringing in junk leads. I'll see you over there.